Hello and welcome to adminchat. My name is Amanda Johnson and I'm the Managing Director of a company called VACT Limited. Basically, I am a business coach for virtual assistants and I work with PAs and EAs who are looking to set up and run their own VA business, and I also work with established VAs. And for this admin chat, I am going to be sharing with you 7 ways in which you can overcome procrastination. So what I'd like to do is just share some advice and some guidance that I've got that might actually help you either in your employed role or as a self-employed VA. Now, it's currently raining and my internet is struggling a little bit. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be on camera as I deliver the admin chat. I will pop up every so often as and when I can, but for periods of it, because the internet is struggling tonight, I'm actually not going to be on camera for it. And for that, I do apologise. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself and why I feel qualified to talk to you about procrastination. So my background is I did 23 years in the Royal Navy, and in 2012 I launched my own VA business before actually buying the company that I had trained with a couple of years later. For the last 3 years, I've been voted the best VA training provider in the UK, and I'm also an approved Society of Virtual Assistants coach and trainer. Ultimately, I'm passionate about inspiring, challenging, and supporting EAs and PAs and admin professionals to become a virtual assistant, or supporting those virtual assistants who are ready to take the next step in their business. Now, during this admin chat, if you've got any questions whatsoever, whether it's about becoming a virtual assistant or about procrastination, please feel free to tweet me. I've shared my Twitter ID on the screen for you, and please use that hashtag adminchat. Procrastination. You'll hear people give all sorts of reasons as to why they haven't yet done something. Now, that might be complete an urgent project. It could be to go networking. It might be to write that social media post or a blog post. I know in my own VA business, I used to procrastinate about my business accounts. It might be you procrastinate about losing weight, joining an exercise class. There's all sorts of reasons why somebody procrastinates over something. And to the person, everything they say feels like a valid reason for not doing something. And it's not that they're trying to make excuses, but there's generally a reason why they're really struggling to do what it is that they say they're going to do. And so let's have a quick look at procrastination triggers. Research shows us that if you're not familiar with this particular topic, there is actually too much research out there. People want to write books on the subject, and they'll just keep researching and researching and researching. But do you know what? Quite often, they don't ever publish the book. They procrastinate. Perhaps you have hundreds and hundreds of ideas for a social media post or a blog post, but you don't ever finish that article. I know I was chatting to a VA recently, and they told me they had about 7 or 8 articles started, or that were pretty much 80-90% written, but they'd never ever finished them. Until I went along and said, well, why not? And they couldn't give me an answer. So I set them a challenge of getting one published that week. I think I gave them 48 hours and said, look, just finish one and get one published. Reminds me, actually, I probably need to chase them up for the others. Some people have a phobia, and that's actually the underlying cause as to why they procrastinate about something. Maybe they don't like talking on the telephone, or they don't like seeing themselves on video. These can all be procrastination triggers. It might be somebody's got a different learning style to somebody else, or the way in which a lesson is being delivered. Personally, I like to read things. I like to make notes and bullet points. And if I need to learn something that's predominantly delivered via video, I really struggle. And I'll procrastinate watching that video because actually it's not my preferred style of learning. Sometimes people have got different personality traits or conditions that mean actually they're not ready or willing or even sometimes able to do a particular thing, and they'll try and procrastinate in order that they don't have to do it. So what I would like to do is find the cause. What's the thing that's actually making somebody procrastinate over something else? Because once we know what it is we're procrastinating over, we can normally put some steps in place to help us overcome it. So actually, let me just go back one to the quote. George Santayana says, "Those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it." And this actually often applies to people who procrastinate. They beat themselves up for procrastinating, and then they procrastinate all over again. And it's not so much a case of remembering the past as it's more a case of not understanding why we won't do the thing that it is we want to do. So let's look at some of the common reasons for procrastination. Maybe you're a perfectionist, or you're facing a task that's going to be unpleasant, boring, or difficult. Maybe it's just not going to be fun to do. Perhaps that whole thought process behind that task feels overwhelming, or you think it's just going to be too difficult to do it. In your employed role, perhaps you secretly resent having to do the task, and you feel as if you need a reward for doing it. Maybe you're a person who needs structure, and you haven't created the routine yet that gives you that structure in order to do that task that feels uncomfortable or boring or unpleasant. One of the things that I often see is somebody is afraid of either failing or afraid of succeeding, and they'll procrastinate because they've got that inner fear. Maybe you don't have the big picture or that driving goal, and therefore what looks like procrastination is more a case of lacking the motivation to do something. And sometimes when we have so much to do, we simply don't have the energy for all of the things that we need to do, and we'll delay. I was trying to use another words rather than procrastinate then, but we'll delay on doing the things that are not motivating. Do you resonate with any of those things that I've just said? Generally, most of us will suffer with one of those reasons when it comes to procrastination. So, how are we going to overcome it? How are we going to stop saying tomorrow or someday or next year and actually start to take action now? Because no matter what your most common reason for procrastination is, there's a two-step approach that we can use to overcome it. Firstly, I'd like you to understand the cause, what's making you procrastinate, and then I want you to reframe your habitual response to that procrastination. Take a moment, just think about something that's sitting on your to-do list that just never ever seems to get done. What's stopping you doing it? Is it the fact that you fear the outcome of once you've done it? Or is it that actually you just don't know what to do? If fear of success is the thing that's stopping you, well, we've got to get there first. We do need to do just one thing at a time. And even if it is successful, it's not necessarily going to be successful straight away. Perhaps if you've got a fear of failure, well, you might recognise in yourself that there's an element of perfectionism too. You too can benefit from focusing on what you want to achieve in a single day and start to reframe your expectation. By reframing your expectation, what we start to do is to create a habit. And habits are formed through repetition. And we're literally training the neural pathways of our brain to repeat an habitual response to a situation. So I know when I was VAing, I said to you earlier that I would procrastinate over my accounts. It was much easier to keep procrastinating than it was to sit down and do them. But once I'd done them, the response and the way I felt was absolutely brilliant. And it was more a case of, because I allowed them to build up, it was harder to sit down and do them. And our brain will often take the path of least resistance. And so what we need to do is rewire our brains into stopping procrastinating and actually do the action that we need to do. So I'm now going to share with you 7 methods or 7 ways or 7 strategies, whichever way you'd like to think of them, to help you overcome procrastination. Now, the first one is called the reminder strategy. So I would like you to create a new structure or a routine that actually allows you to look at what it is you need to stop doing, or rephrase that, start doing, as the case may be. So if you remember, we talked earlier about identifying the cause of your procrastination. And once we know what that cause is, we can apply the correct type of reminder system. Now, one of the things that I do with the VAs that I work with is I quite often use post-it notes. Now, for them, I'll get them to write 3 different phrases on a post-it note. And I get them to put whichever role they're fulfilling in their business on the note of that post-it note. So let me give you a scenario. I get them to draw a triangle and to write at the top of the triangle, CEO. And then bottom left of the triangle, I get them to write shareholder, and bottom right of the triangle, I get them to write doer. And what we do is we put a post-it note with those titles on in the 3 positions around their computer. So CEO, doer, and shareholder. And every time they sit down at their desk, they have to put the role of which they're fulfilling to the top of the triangle or the top of their computer screen. And this is about breaking the habit of being most comfortable in the doer role. Instead, what I want them to do is to actually do all 3 roles. And if they haven't moved their post-it notes during a day, it means that they haven't changed the roles. Now, most of them will sit in that doer role. And what I want them to do is to break that habit and to spend time in their CEO role. But often being in that CEO role can feel uncomfortable. And so they'll procrastinate in doing so. So using post-it notes to actually break a habit can be a real great reminder. So method 2 is to outsource the task or the thing that you're procrastinating over. Now, sometimes when you're in an employed role, you can't outsource it. But it might be you have a work colleague who absolutely loves the thing that you're struggling to do. Or if it's your own VA business, you might want to find an associate who can help you with the thing that it is that you're procrastinating over. But if we're thinking of using this method, what I'd like you to think about is, do you really hate the task? What is it that you're really procrastinating over? Is it that you don't have the skill to do it or the experience? Or does it really just not interest you? And then it's about finding somebody who does enjoy that particular task or who excels at that particular task and outsourcing it to them instead. Method 3. Find and use your unique accountability tactic. So, accountability is a great thing to have, but what you need to do is work out what feels right for you. So, would working with a partner or an accountability partner or an accountability group help you achieve the thing that you're procrastinating over? It works really well if you've committed yourself to achieve something really specific, like writing a blog post every week, doing 30 minutes of yoga every day, making a to-do list every night. The great thing here is to find somebody who's trying to have a similar goal or a similar deadline as you, and then you motivate one another. You share the ups and the downs. You actually feel that you don't want to let the other person down. I know during my military days, I used to meet somebody else to go for a run. Running was not my strong point, I have to be honest. But I found if I made the commitment to go running with somebody else or go to the gym with somebody else, I didn't want to let them down or let myself down. But ultimately, they were my accountability tactic. So another way to do this is to join a community, a peer-to-peer sort of group program or a mentoring program or something where you can share what it is you're trying to do. One of the things I get my clients to do is to tell me each week 3 things that they're going to do to move their business forward. And we do that on a Monday, and then they come back at the end of the week and they tell me how they get on. Now, I don't tell them off if they haven't achieved the thing that they said they were going to do, but just the very fact that they have declared their accountability motivates them to making sure they do something. Method 4 in our ways to overcome procrastination is actually the humble to-do list. Now, I don't know about you, but I love a good to-do list. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we can put too many things on our to-do list. And it can feel as if we're never ever going to get to the bottom of it. So instead of creating that huge mammoth list, and it might be that you need to do that to get it all out of your head, I want you to create a really simple to-do list. And instead of trying to do the world in one day, please remember there are 7 days in a week. It might be that you actually put different things on your to-do list at different times in the week. Now, as EAs, PAs, admin assistants, virtual assistants, I'm preaching to the converted here, but quite often we forget these things when we're looking at our own to-do list. We can tell somebody else, but we just don't do it. Now, if you've got a particular thing that you're procrastinating over, I want you to put that at the top of your to-do list. And maybe you leave everything else that should be on that list off it until you've done that real horrible project. Or it might be that you need to look at what that big task is and break it down into bite-sized chunks. And then it's just about chipping away at it and breaking it down. But if you can focus on your top single priority, that big procrastination point, you'll get into the habit of wanting to take it off that list and about getting it done. Method 5. Look for the sticking point. What is actually causing you to procrastinate? We often procrastinate on tasks not because the task itself is hard, but because there's a step in the process that derails us, and it derails us every time. If you can eliminate that step or find a more effective way of getting past it, often the urge to procrastinate disappears and the task becomes easy or even actually just more enjoyable. So let's find what is the big procrastination point and what is the thing that's stopping you moving forwards each and every time you're trying to do something. Now, I always smile when I think about this, looking for the reward. And this is method 6 in our ways to overcome procrastination. And the reason I smile is because I think of my 9-year-old son and trying to get him to do his homework each week. And how do I get him to do his homework? I think about the rewards. Now, in his case, he loves his iPad and he loves technology. And so one of the things here I talk about is rewarding him with time to be able to play the games that he would like to play on his iPad. And if he doesn't want to do his homework, he doesn't get the time on the iPad. Now, how can you use this in your business or at work? It's about finding what are the intrinsic rewards in everything that you do. What is it that actually motivates you towards achieving that task that you don't want to do? So, what would make you feel like you've achieved something, or what would be the reward for you? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be this massive prize or anything like that. It could just be, do you know what? I'm going to spend 30 minutes doing that real horrible task that I don't want to do. And at the end of those 30 minutes, if I want to stop for today, I will. Quite often, though, once we're in that zone of doing something and we can see the task isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be, we just keep going because actually we want to get it finished by that point. So look for the reward that you can use in your life, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's having that nice cold can of pop, or going for a coffee or something like that at the end of the particular task. One of the things I love to do is ticking things off that to-do list. And that to me feels quite satisfying and feels a little bit like a reward. It's almost like giving myself that miniature high five. Step 7, or method 7, in overcoming procrastination is all about creating the right space. Now, this could be the right physical space, or it could be the sort of right emotional space. It's about having organisation. A lack of organisation can often lead to chaos and confusion. And I don't know about you, but I like to feel in control of what's going on around me. And when my desk is cluttered, or it's been used as the dumping ground by my family, I actually start to feel overwhelmed. And when I feel overwhelmed, I will often procrastinate about doing the task because my brain doesn't feel that it's able to think clearly. And it is a little bit like needing to declutter the desk in order that I actually feel in control. And therefore I give myself the space to think. Now, I'm not one of these people, though, that likes to have fun objects on my desk or anything like that, or desk toys. I do have pictures of my family. I do have the pen pot that the children made and all of that. And that's all part of the ability to work from home and having things that I love around me. but I tend not to keep work on my desk if I can help it, and I tend not to keep everything else. Not unless the kids have dumped stuff on my desk, as I mentioned earlier. I try to just use the one notebook so that everything goes into one place. And it means that actually I'm not looking for stuff or anything else. So perhaps you might need to go through your office, donate, throw away, relocate, anything that doesn't inspire you, or actually the stuff that zaps your energy. Perhaps you've got a number of books for computer systems or programs that you used to use that sort of sit around your desk or underneath your computer, but they don't need to be there anymore. So it's about creating the right space in your working environment. Maybe you also need to do a bit of creating space on your computer, decluttering your hard drive and tidying up your filing system. These things can spread out into all aspects of your life. So it might be that you also need to look at your relationships, your social media, and all of that. So it's about creating the space for you that you feel inspired to do the work that it is you need to do. And then it's about putting it all together. So we've talked about causes and triggers. We've talked about habits and procrastination points, motivations and rewards, as well as sharing 7 strategies, quite simple strategies, that you could use to help you overcome procrastination. And it might mean that you need to find some tools or technology or things that are going to help you pull it all together. So how will you know if you've got the right tool that's going to stop you procrastinating? Well, the right tool is the one that works for you. So whether that's technology, whether that's notepad and pen, whether that's actually finding an accountability partner or a mentoring group or peer support in the workplace. It's about finding the things that's going to stop you procrastinating. Because when we bust that procrastination, it reduces our stress. And actually, when we've reduced that stress, we get more energy, which reduces procrastination even more. So what I'd like you to do is to think about what is the thing that you are currently procrastinating over. What is the thing that you're currently not doing? And then I'd like you to think about the 7 methods I've shared with you during this session and think, which one am I going to try to bust that procrastination and that item 4? Because actually, when we stop procrastinating, all we're doing is we're creating new habits and finding methods that energize us and inspire us to achieve the thing that we need to achieve. And all I want to do is to help you get there, to achieve success in whatever it is you're wanting to do, and to stop procrastinating. I'd absolutely love it if you either tweet me or message me and tell me what is the one thing that you've been procrastinating over and which of the methods that you're going to try to actually bust that procrastination. So let me just move my camera there so you can see the top of the slide. And so what I'm going to do now is say thank you. If you've got any questions, then please feel free to message me. I've shared my contact details on the screen. You can tweet me. Don't forget to use the hashtag adminchat. You can message me. You've got my email address on the screen there. And seriously, I would love to know what is the one thing that you've been procrastinating over and which of the methods that I've shared with you during this session that you're going to try and use to beat that procrastination. And then once you've beaten it, I'd love to hear about your successes. If you've got any questions about becoming a virtual assistant and you'd like to know more, there's lots and lots of freebies on my website, which is www.vact.co.uk, and feel free to message me. I've got a chat bot which is on my website. I'm the only person that talks back through that. So if you've got questions and you just want to know more about what it's like to be a VA, then please feel free to message me. And if setting up your VA business is the one thing that you're procrastinating over, I can certainly help you on that one. Thank you very much. Take care.